Yeah, so that's
All right. I'm Matt Renicks. This is the Matt Renicks Show. And tonight we got Kelly Halliburton. Bassist, he's been in so many bands. Deprived, Resist, Detestation, Masskontroll, Defiance, Murder, Disco X, Severed Head of State, P.R.O.B.L.E.M.S, Jenny Don't and the Spurs, Problems. How's it going, dude?
Good. I think you
Yeah?
got most. There's probably
Yeah.
I keep track of myself. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, the first time I saw you play was when you were in Maki before it was Severed Head of State, right?
Oh yeah. I
What's up?
don't know where that name confusion came from. Somehow some wires got crossed somewhere, and I don't know. I think we actually played that show in Dallas before we decided on a name. So that was
Okay.
September of '99.
Yeah.
That was our second show ever.
What's that?
That was our second show ever.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, did you guys play Austin before or something?
Yeah, we played a house party in Austin at that band that became what is it? You'll Know Us by the Trail of Our Dead or whatever. You know that band? They became like kind of a big I don't know even what style, like Hot Topic-y style or something. I don't know, some band.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we played at their house.
Okay. Yeah, but I was just blown away. Jack was like, yeah, and you were like, try, fucking drinking that Mad Dog, man. But my band Ballistics have to play with you guys in Denton in I think it was '99 as well. And then you guys had to drive all the way up to Portland to start the tour.
We started in Austin, and we drove to Portland to record, and then and that was when Todd Burdett was moving to Portland from Memphis. So we had his van full of all of his stuff, all of his records and clothes and shit.
Oh.
And so it was kind of a tour / Todd's moving caravan. So couple cars, and yeah, that was a crazy tour. Todd's van blew up in Albuquerque.
Oh shit.
And so we had to rent this big truck after that, and it was just a big fiasco. But it was a fun tour. It was like 2 weeks, I think, up to Portland, and that's where we did we recorded at Smegma Studios up here, and that was December of 1999.
Oh, okay. Cool. So how'd that band get together, and you guys being so far apart?
Yeah, I mean, we were all friends for a long time. I'd known Jack since the early '90s. Just dealing with him, I think he booked the first show I played in Dallas, which was on the '94 Defiance tour.
Oh, okay.
And we'd always been in touch and corresponded. And then I was friends with Todd because I booked a couple shows for him in Portland with His Hero's Gone. And Chris Pfeffer, our drummer, he and I were pretty good friends. He actually played drums on the Masskontroll tour in Europe in '95 because our drummer couldn't make it. So he filled in on that. Cool. Yeah, it was cool. I didn't know him very well before that tour, and we'd never actually played with him before. So we picked him up at the airport at Heathrow and drove down to Nottingham and practiced at the venue. I think it was the Old General in Nottingham. And we did a long sound check and practiced, and he picked it up. We did a bunch of UK shows and went to mainland Europe, and that was quite an adventure. But yeah, so anyways, we all knew each other from those circumstances, and we'd always talked about putting together a band, and we finally got around to it. Jack kind of orchestrated the whole thing. He was motivated enough wrangle us all together. And we flew to Austin the first time in, I want to say like February of 98. And that's when, in the space of 5 days, we wrote, practiced, and recorded all the songs that ended up on our first 12-inch, that one-sided 12-inch that came out on Lingua Armata.
Fucking hell, man. 5 days. Yeah, that's pretty good, man.
Yeah, at that point we didn't have a name and we didn't have any plans for the future. We didn't think it was just for fun. And it ended up being 12 years and 3 LPs and a bunch of singles and tours all over the world. We haven't played together for a few years now. I think our last time playing together was the Maryland Death Fest in 2016.
Oh, okay.
But we've always maintained over the years that, we've never actually officially broken up at any point. So who knows?
Well, that's good. Yeah, you could just, whenever you want to jam, go on tour again, you always got that.
Yeah.
And you got that, I see you got that Fender back there. Is that an enchanted bass? Or you just you're born with a bass in your hands?
I've had that thing for pretty close to 30 years now. Yeah, that's the bass I got when I was in Resist, and it's sort of followed me throughout the years. Much to the chagrin of bandmates over the years, because there's always something on it that's going to malfunction. It's always falling apart in the middle of a tour or something. Had to rig it back together. The electronics are sketchy, and the intonation's horrible, but it's my case. So I can't really I can't get rid of it. I'll play it until it's dead.
Yeah.
And they'll probably bury me with it, But yeah, I've had
that's right. Yeah.
years.
So what was the first band you were in then? The very first.
Oh
band.
shit! I was in a series of more like concept bands than real bands back when I was in high school, back in the the mid to late 80s. Just fucking around in the basement kind of bands. I grew up in a really small town on the Oregon coast, and it was really difficult to find people to play with. So it was mainly, most of my bands were me playing guitar. Sometimes I'd have my little brother Ben play bass, because I had a bass laying around, and had my friend Jason banging on. We had like a partial drum kit and some cardboard boxes, and we literally like put together, you couldn't even call it drums, you'd call it percussion. And we had songs and it was fun, but we never really did much. We tried to play a high school talent show at my high school, but that didn't work out very well. No. But those bands were like a band called Death Squad and a band called Mutant Slime, and
Mutant Slime, I like that.
They're just goofy high school 80s high school bands, Yeah. It wasn't until I graduated from high school in '89 and I moved to Portland, which was like an hour and a half away, and I finally like got away from my little town and moved to the big city and started playing in what I would call real bands. And the first one of those was a band called Corrupted. And it was with some guys that later played in Deprived with me. And that was '89. That band actually went through some lineup changes and eventually turned into the band that was called Godless, that has an LP on Tribal War.
Okay.
And so they were pretty good. They were a good band. Not when I was in it. We weren't very good, but it was, so that lasted a few months, and then from there I joined Resist, who had just put out a demo, and their bass player quit in, I think it was February of '90, and so I joined that band, and then shortly after it was Deprived I was playing with, and that's when the ball kind of got rolling. But those are my first like real bands, Corrupted and Resist and Deprived back then.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so basically, like most of most of those bands and every band ever since then is pretty much toured, right?
Yeah, for the most part. Deprived never toured. We never did anything out of the Northwest. But yeah, Resist, my first European tour was with Resist in 1992, and that was an amazing, life-changing experience. And yeah, ever since then, all I wanted to do was be on the road, touring anywhere that'll have us. And that's all of my bands. I've never been really content to just kind of hang out and play in the basement or whatever. That's not, I like that, but it's a lot more fulfilling to me to use the band as a vehicle to travel and meet people and experience things. And as long as I'm having fun, as long as the people keep coming to see us, and I guess in some situations they don't come to see us and we tour anyways, but
well, that might just be the promoter's fault,
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, that brings me to another question. We can skip a couple of these. Come back to them. Speaking of tours, like, obviously it's easier now with the internet. So, like before, I mean, what would you have to do? Like I would have to just look in Maximum Rock and Roll and stuff like that, and talk to record labels, pen pals and stuff like that. Was that the same with you, or?
Oh yeah. I mean, at this point, what's it been, like 15, 20 years since social media and email really got rolling. It's kind of hard to imagine doing all this before then.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying about those European tours.
Yeah, back in the '90s, I would book tours. Well, I was always really involved in like the pen pal scene back in the old days. I had pen pals all over the world and people I traded records with and tapes, traded cassettes and all this stuff. And we just kept in contact. It was just fun to like correspond with people. That was just a part of the culture. Yeah. And so it's crazy to think about now, but yeah, you'd write a letter to someone in Germany or Finland or something and ask if they could book a couple shows on these dates. And then you'd wait like 2 weeks for a reply, you know. And they'd get back to you and they'd, either they'd be like, oh yeah, totally, or they'd be, no, that doesn't work. I'm going to be on tour, so I can't book a show. How about these dates? And then you'd have to wait a couple weeks, write them back. And it was just insane. Sometimes you'd call, but calling was so expensive. The lead up to every tour, especially the overseas ones back then, you'd have like $500 phone bills that were just, just all these international calls. And, domestically, most of the tours were booked by phone. You'd sometimes a letter, but book your own fucking life. Before it was even a book, it was just a column in the page in Maximum Rock and Roll, and I would book stuff on the page. And then I can't remember when they put it out as the book the first time, but I was always in that book through pretty much every edition that they made. And early on, the first couple editions, it was my mom's phone number that was in there. Man. So, I made a lot of friends, booked a lot of bands in Portland that were passing through. But it was funny because it kind of extended beyond just that. And you'd get calls like my mom, it was a landline, right? So at my mom's house, whether I was living there or not, the phone would ring at like 2 a.m. and some drunk kid from somewhere that was like, you know, train hopping through Portland or something, would call and look for a place to stay. And
Oh God.
you know, but the funny thing is, back then that was just the way it worked, and my door was always open to people, you know, perfect strangers, and you know, it was cool. You know, I had you know, to be honest, I had very few bad experiences, and off the top of my head, I can't really think of any time where I, you know, had to kick someone out or you know, didn't get along with someone. For the most part, it led to, like, you know, a friendship that in some cases is still alive, you know, 30 plus years later, which is pretty cool, you know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, dude.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, Facebook and email and all that stuff is great, and it's cheap and it's fast. But I feel like sometimes it doesn't lead to the same sort of depth of relationship that it did back then, when it was a little harder to maintain contact with people.
Right. Yeah.
But, you know, I tell you, it's better than, you know, going to the post office once a week with a backpack full of mail and spending, you know, $100 a pop.
Yeah, yeah.
It was really insane. I can't believe, you know, I working on a terrible part-time job back then and making nothing, and I still managed to, you know, that's where all my money went, basically rent, mail, and records, and that was
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I know how that goes, dude. Also work. Yeah, you're a gardener by trade?
I'm a general contractor, so I do mainly like outdoor carpentry, outdoor construction. I have a background in landscaping, so I do a lot of I don't know, like garden structures for people and stuff. You know, it keeps me busy and keeps me outside.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't had an indoor job since the mid '90s.
Really?
So it's great. I work outside. You know, sometimes the weather's horrible, especially here in Oregon. But
Oh yeah, yeah. That's pretty
you know,
much like London weather, you know? Yeah.
yeah, totally, totally.
Let's see. Oh, so you've been on tons of tours. So what do you think is the craziest thing that happened? I'm sure there's tons of them, but just off the
I don't
top.
know. You know, I was trying to think about that, but it's so hard to narrow it down. There's just like just so many instances of pure insanity, and it seems like tours in the last 10 or 12 years have been pretty, you know, I mean, it still gets weird sometimes, but it's not as crazy as it was back in the, you know, like on those Defiance tours, you know, back in the 90s. That was just pure mayhem. And, you know, we had no idea what we were doing. And it was a different environment back then. You know, we did a U.S. tour that was 5 weeks long in 1994 with our friends from Seattle, Inhumane, and you know, that was nuts. It was just like I booked that whole thing, you know, through Book Your Own Fucking Life and, you know, friends and correspondence, pen pals, and all that stuff, and it was just, you know, the whole street punk thing didn't really exist at that time to, you know, to the extent that it later did. There were little pockets of people that were sort of you know, doing the same thing that we were doing, like in New York. The Casualties were kind of, you know, they were getting started and doing their, you know, a similar thing, and there were like spiky punks in Denver, and, you know, these little pockets around the country, but not very many of them.
Right.
And so we'd roll into town and people didn't know what the hell, you know, we were, because it was nuts, man. It was just like literally, you know, fighting with rednecks and being like kicked awake by cops at rest areas. And it was just, yeah, it was crazy. you know, and then we went to Europe and did the same thing for like, I think it was a 9-week tour.
Fuck
Yeah,
it,
just
hell, man.
we used to do these long tours because we were just like, well, you know, that's you know, what we have to do.
Right.
And just like, not only were we the most dysfunctional, fucked up band, but we had no infrastructure. We had no tour support or label, or, you know, we barely had merchandise. We just kind of, you know, I don't know. It was just nuts. I'm amazed that we survived
Yeah.
as, you know, like as people, and, you know, that we continue in some form or another to still play music, because it was nuts and it was exhausting, but it was fun, you know. It was just like, you didn't know any better. You just, you know, you just did it because you felt like you had to.
Right.
And I'm almost 50 and I still feel like that. I still, you know, I still go on what are essentially DIY tours where, you know, my bands now will drive through the Midwest and play to 8 people a night. And,
Yeah.
you know, it can't all be New York and San Francisco and Austin, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Now, speaking of Europe, I mean, you lived in Germany for years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I lived there for about 7 years. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So and you were in what, Murder Disco X?
Yeah,
And,
River Disco X and Cluster Bomb Unit, and I a couple other projects. You know, throughout that whole time, that was from about late '98 through end of 2005. I was living there.
oh, okay.
So yeah, the whole time Severed Head was still going. We'd meet up about once a year and record or tour. But my full-time German bands, yeah, that was like Murder Disco and Cluster Bomb Unit. And I did some projects around, you know, I had a project in Spain and Mallorca
Oh, wow.
called Holocausto Pomada that put out a record, and we'd play, you know, I'd fly down to Mallorca and we'd play a couple shows here and there. I had a band based in Stockholm that was me and some of my friends from Wolf Brigade, and like Dade, he's in Astakask, and
Yeah.
our singer was Christopher from DS13. And that was a fun band, you know. We played a bunch of shows and put out a record and all that stuff. So I kept pretty busy when I was living in Germany. It's just hard that, you know, it wasn't as busy as I would have liked to have been. You know, most of the guys in the German bands were, you know, they had kids and they were, you know, had full-time jobs and stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So tour was pretty much out, or just maybe once a year or something like that, or.
Yeah, I mean, we did a couple road trips. Murder Disco went to the Balkans and toured down through the Balkans at one point. It was like 10 days or something like that. And then Cluster Bomb Unit did a couple short tours regionally in Europe. And then the only like big tour that we did, it wasn't that big, but it was a few weeks in Southeast Asia.
Oh, really? How was that, man?
That was amazing. That was great. We did Singapore and Malaysia and Indonesia, and we were there for about 3 weeks, and it was awesome. It was great. Just totally different world than, you know, it's like we woke up one morning in Germany and took the train to the airport, and there was, you know, 3 feet of snow on the ground, and it was freezing cold. And then we flew over landed in Singapore, and it was just this, you know, the door to the airplane open. It was this tropical humidity, this heat. It was like, you know, 100 degrees. And it was just like such a, you know, and the culture difference was pretty much as extreme as the, you know, the temperature difference and the climatic difference. It was crazy. It was awesome. And the people there were just cool as hell.
Really?
You know?
Like even like normal people and stuff, or?
Yeah, everyone was really friendly, and you know, everyone went out of their way to show us a good time, and you know, get drunk with us, and you know, be hospitable. It was really cool. Um, yeah, you know, that was 15 years ago, and I've always wanted to go back, and I just never had the chance. But you know, someday,
there's
someday.
there's this, what is it? This one group of guys in Singapore, I think, that they're starting to have a bunch of bands come.
Huh.
I'll have to look it up for you. I'll have to look it up for you. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these days, my busiest band is like a country western garage band, and I don't think there's much of a scene for that there. So,
Oh, with Jenny Jones. Oh yeah. How was Iceland? With that, Jenny Jones and the Spurs went to Iceland.
it was
Pretty
ice.
recently.
You know, I have a long tradition in my bands of going to various places at the worst possible time.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if we're going to tour the Deep South, we have to do it in August when it's the most horribly hot and humid, or you know, Scandinavia in like January. So true to form, we went to Iceland in February,
Fucking
which
hell.
is the darkest, coldest time that you can possibly go there. But it was great. You know, it was really fun. My Iceland experience prior to that was just stopovers at the airport in Keflavik. But this time was really cool. We were there for a week, and we played 2 shows, and we drove around the island, or part of the island, and saw geysers and, you know, lots of snow. And
Was the Northern Lights at that time, or?
we tried to see the Northern Lights, and you know, there's too much light pollution in Reykjavik where we were at.
Okay.
You gotta kind of go out to the countryside, and we never really had the chance. Our guitar player Christopher actually went with like a tour group out. They took a bus out to the middle of nowhere, and he said it was pretty cool. I don't know what we were doing. I think we were too burned out or hungover or something to go with him, so we didn't. You know, we just kind of stuck around Reykjavik. But it was cool. You know, went to record stores. Reykjavik's a really nice little town, and the people are really nice. You know, like really friendly people in Iceland. Which, yeah, it was cool. The beer's good.
Are they really like? Are the beers really like $15? No.
Oh yeah, it's incredibly expensive. It's like Japan. It makes Japan look cheap. You know, everything is just outrageous there.
Shit.
Luckily, we were kind of sponsored by these groups that, you know, they like Iceland Air flew us over. They comped our tickets, and our
Wow, that's cool.
machine comped. So the whole thing was paid for. We got lucky. Like, there's probably no way that we could do that if we weren't sponsored. Like, we probably couldn't do it again. You know? So
Well, that's cool. That's a cool experience, man. I mean, I looked at tickets from here. I think it's like about 200 quid return.
yeah.
So, you know, if I get better, you know, I might head over there, you know?
Yeah. It's worth it. There's a really cool punk rock museum in Reykjavik, and this old guy runs it. It's pretty cool. He's this old punk guy. He's been around pretty much since the beginning. You know, he saw Crucifix when they played there, and
Oh, wow.
I think it was 83 or 84.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's in an old public toilet. There's a public restroom that's, you know, you go down these concrete stairs, and there's still like toilets and stalls and urinals and stuff in there. And he's got the whole thing set up with old flyers from the earliest punk shows. The first band that ever played in Iceland was the first punk band was the Stranglers in,
Oh,
I think,
really?
77 or 78. And he's got the whole history of Icelandic punk since then, which is amazing. There's great bands that I can't even pronounce their names, and no one outside of Iceland really has heard of them. But yeah, if you go to Reykjavik, go to the Punk Museum.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So yeah. Let's see. Oh, what's your current band is Jenny Dote and the Spurs?
Yeah.
And what about Problems? Problems?
No, Problems. Yeah, Problems disintegrated. Our singer killed himself
Oh shit! I'm sorry to hear that, man.
a couple years ago.
Oh fuck.
And after that, we really didn't have the motivation to get going again, which is a shame because I really like playing with that band. That was, we had a lot of fun over the years, a lot of chaos, but somehow we managed to be pretty productive and had a lot of touring, a lot of shows, a lot of records. But yeah, I don't know. It kind of took the wind out of our sails after that happened.
Yeah, it's understandable, man.
Yeah, so I haven't really had the motivation to start like another kind of more orthodox punk band since then. I've just been really busy. Like right around that time was when I started getting really busy with the Spurs. So that really took up a lot of my time and energy. So I don't know. Someday I'd like to, have more of a punk band, but at this point I don't have a ton of time. I do have one other band that hasn't really played out. We were gearing up to start playing shows when all this crazy shit started going down and killed live music. But we're an instrumental surf band called the Fathoms. And it's me. Yeah, it's a 3-piece. It's me, Sam Henry from the Spurs and Don't, and then Eric the Vegetable from Poison Idea is playing guitar. So
cool.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's cool. And we don't have to put up with any singers because it's instrumental.
That's cool. So what advice would you give kids starting out, in a punk band or, I guess any type of band, just when they want to go on tour and stuff like that?
Don't quit your day job.
Yeah.
I don't know, just do it and try and maintain, humility and sincerity, I guess. A lot of people get into playing music for completely wrong, I don't know, what I would consider to be wrong reasons. You're not going to get rich. You're not going to get famous.
Yeah. There ain't no money in punk, man.
Yeah. Just have fun and don't be an asshole.
Right? Yeah, that's yeah. I've been in bands, been good friends with somebody, hey, let's start a band. And they just turn into completely, totally different people, like total asshole, like the ego is out of the ceiling,
Yeah, bands can bring out the worst in people, and that's probably myself included. I'm probably not the easiest person to deal with in a band.
Oh, same here.
That I've worked with some fucking real nightmare personalities, and it's just you get creative people, and you put them in a room or you put them in a van. It's like taking a bunch of bees and shaking them up in a tin can. You're bouncing across the across the landscape in a shitty van, and you're gonna get crabby and you're gonna get pissy, and everyone's gonna get territorial about their space in the van or whatever. You're tired, you're hungry, you're bored, you're pissed off because something's going on back home that you can't deal with. It just brings out the worst, but sometimes it brings out the best in people. And I haven't permanently destroyed too many relationships. Most of my former bandmates were still friends. It's just hard. It's just a bizarre circumstance. You just it's crazy. It's almost like you put yourself intentionally in situations that humans were never supposed to be put in, and it makes shit difficult. But you know, I appreciate all my former and present bandmates. You know, just I've been lucky to have worked with some of the best, most creative, intelligent, and thoughtful people over the the last 35 years. It's great, and I wouldn't have done it any differently. Chosen a different path. It's no regrets. But if you're just starting out, just keep some perspective and realize that this is it's not an easy way to live, and it can be really fulfilling, but man, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of heartbreak, and it's just a giant money pit, and but do it anyways. Why not?
Yeah. Okay. So what's next for you? Anything you want to throw out there for our listening audience?
Yeah, we're just playing it by ear at this point. We with the Spurs, we had a really busy touring season coming up. We had a bunch of tours. We had a West Coast tour. We had an Alaskan tour. We were supposed to go to Europe in the fall. We had all this stuff booked, and then this plague kind of
Oh fuck, dude.
everything up. So live music is done for now, and we hope it comes back.
Yeah, no shit. I hope they don't fucking just say like, okay, it's never gonna.
Yeah, I don't want to sit there in 10 years trying to explain to someone that no, we used to actually play like in the same room with the crowd. It wasn't this like, I don't know, living room internet concert bullshit. It was a real thing.
Right. Right.
We'll see what happens. We're just, I don't know. Jenny and I are keeping busy with house stuff, fixing up stuff and waiting. That's all
Yeah.
you can do.
Yeah. I just go to the park once a day, I have a like a little letter from the doctor say I need to go out for my anxiety,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I guess things are a little more strict in London, right?
Well,
Like you need that to go out.
no, not really. I mean, the parks across the street, I see that there's tons of people. I think it's
Oh,
because and all of them are joggers because all the gyms closed down. So it's
yeah.
just all runners and people working out in the park,
Oh, yeah. It's kind of amazing. Like, I mean, I'm outside every day because I work outside, and you know, there's nothing to take a nation full of couch potato, lazy, pasty blobs and turn them into these avid outdoorsmen like a stay-at-home order. All they had to do was give a stay-at-home order, and suddenly the beaches are packed and the hiking trails are just thronged with people. It's amazing. It's so, people are so fucking weird. I don't It's like they've been trying for decades to get kids to turn off video games and get people to like switch off their TVs and go outside, and nothing has worked until now, when they've told people specifically that they have to stay at home. And then it's like the doors are flung open and people are just rushing out to the great outdoors. It's really bizarre. The streets are packed. We see people biking and jogging and walking down our street all the time. And
and it wasn't like that before? No?
Oh, 6 months ago, it was a dead zone out there.
Oh, shit. Yeah, nuts, man.
But they've closed the beaches in Oregon, so people can't even go to the beach here.
That's bullshit, dude.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right, well, Kelly, been great talking to you.
Yeah, you too,
Thank you
man.
so much for the interview, dude.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it on. I'll put it on YouTube, and I'll put it on my Matt Renicks show thing on Facebook.
All right. Cool. Thanks.
All right, bud. Well, yeah. Fucking cheers. Thanks a lot, dear.
All right, how does this end?
I'll
Try
just
it to-
fucking push stop. Yeah, yeah. All right.